We've got some pretty big news to take a look at here today involving the New York Rangers and a couple different things. First off, we're going to take a look at two former New York Rangers players who are going to be retiring this offseason, so we'll take a look at that. And also, we've got a new trade rumor that has come out there involving the Rangers being linked to a Seattle Kraken top 6 caliber forward who can play center and wing, who's also on a pretty team-friendly and quite reasonable 2-year contract. 2 years left of that deal with about a $5 million cap hit. So we'll take a look at what that possible trade could look like, if it's going to happen, if it's realistic. And also, we're going to take a look, like I said, at the two players, former Rangers, who are going to be retiring. And we'll start off with that news as Jaroslav Halak and Blake Wheeler are retiring. And the news came out somewhat recently, and let's take a look at kind of what that means here quickly. I think first off, obviously, these are two players who didn't have an extremely kind of long career with the Rangers. Both of them spent one season each with the team there, so it obviously wasn't a very kind of long time with the Rangers, but they both had a bit of success there, I guess, at moments. Not a ton there, obviously. Blake Wheeler was a bit of an unfortunate kind of circumstance there, as he did only play 54 games in the 2023-24 season there. Dealt with an injury, of course. Came back in the playoffs, played a little bit there, of course, but was just coming back from the injury, didn't play for months. So really unfortunate kind of circumstance there with Blake Wheeler. Was hoping for a little more, obviously, but injuries definitely came into effect there. But he had a 54 games played with the Rangers there in that season. 21 points there. Nothing too bad. Nothing too crazy good, but obviously in that limited sample size he did have, I think he did kind of fine for the team. And Blake also did not play a single game the last season there in 2024-25, so it's really not surprising at all that he is officially calling it quits there and is retiring. But now for Jaroslav Halak, he did not play in the 2024-25 season or the 23-24 season, so the last two seasons there has not played a single NHL game, so it's not surprising at all he's officially calling it a career, which was a very, very good one. He ends up finishing his NHL career with 581 games played, 295 wins, so just shy of that 300 win mark there, but finishes with a 2.5 goals against average and a .915 save percentage. So he's obviously someone who, has had a great long NHL career, being a phenomenal starting caliber goalie for many, many seasons there. Also won, 2 Jennings trophies there, so good on him. He's, a very accomplished goalie there. Obviously, never ended up winning a cup there necessarily, but still had a very nice long NHL career, of course. And in his only NHL season with the New York Rangers back in 2022-23, I actually did get to see his first NHL win with the New York Rangers in that season there, so that was kind of cool. I got to be in Ottawa for that game. I got to see that game live, so that was kind of cool there to see Jaroslav Halak's first win with the Rangers after him, I believe it was, not having the greatest start with the team there. I ended up getting to see his first win, which was pretty cool that season, and he ended up having that season, though, 25 games played, 24 starts, having a 10-9-5 record, a .903 save percentage, and a 2.72 goals against average. Also had one shutout, so for a backup goaltender, that's not terrible numbers at all there. He's in his late 30s at that moment, so really and truly, I think he had a decent kind of season there with the Rangers, being a solid backup goaltender. And now let's move on, though, and take a look at the actual trade rumor that we're going to talk about in today's video, and that is involving Jared McCann of the Seattle Kraken. So there was a rumor that kind of came out there linking the Rangers and a couple other teams to the Seattle Kraken center, who can play a bit of wing as well. He does have 2 more years left with a $5 million cap hit, which, for what he can bring, being a true top 6 caliber forward, I think he is, definitely like a second line caliber centerman, and definitely can play in the top 6 there on wing also. So this is a very talented forward there, is versatile, has 2 more years left with a very reasonable cap hit. Obviously, $5 million for someone who can put up, 60 plus points there is not bad at all for someone who's also a good 2A player, above 6 foot there, has some solid size, can bring a bit of physicality there. Nothing too crazy, but a bit of physicality. Being able to play center and wing, though, is always nice. He is a penalty-killing kind of player as well, so he's got that going for him. So I think he's just an all-around really solid player, can produce quite well at even strength also. So this is someone who has consistently been above that 60-point mark now for 3 consecutive seasons, and if you could somehow pick him up, he could really be a difference maker for this team. And this is the exact type of player I think it makes sense on the forward side of things for the Rangers to really go out there and try and add in. As of right now, with Panarin still in this roster, they don't have the cap space to go out there and get a real kind of, big name superstar as of this moment. But if they can go out there and pick up a guy, of course, like a Jared McCann, and it is actually possible to make the money work if they do make some kind of a trade like this. So in that deal, they'd of course have to send Carson Soucy, as he is making $3.25 million for this upcoming season, and also they'd have to send Juuso Parssinen, who is making $1.25 million. So it definitely is possible to make this kind of a deal work. Just those two players together alone, you're at $4.5 million. The Rangers have an approximate amount of like $777K right now, I guess you could say, something around there. They can obviously, make the money work a little better if they have to, but basically, you have $4.5 million or so in cap space going out the door there with just those two players. You've also got like a Taylor Radish, a Urho Vakanainen as well if you had to make some more kind of money go out the door. So they can definitely make something happen there if they want to acquire a guy like this and if they have the kind of ability to do so. Right now, I still don't even really think it makes a whole lot of sense for a team like the Seattle Kraken to even entertain trading away a guy like, Jared McCann, who can be a 60-plus point guy, as he's been, like I said, for the past, 3 seasons consecutively now. And, 3 seasons ago, that first season of those 3 had 70 points there, and the season before that at 50. So this is a very good, pretty much guaranteed 60-plus point centerman who can also kill penalties. So I think he's clearly a very valuable player, and having him on a 2-year deal, 2 more years left, with a $5 million cap it is quite incredible and very team-friendly. So honestly, I have no idea why he is really being linked to teams, because this is someone who I think the Kraken should absolutely be holding on to. This is someone who can help them right now and also kind of going forward as well, because he's not a super old player. He's only 29, turned 29 in late May, so he's going into his 29-year-old season there in the NHL. He's not going to be 30 until next summer there, and even then he's just kind of in the middle of his prime there, in the middle of his career. So he's honestly still quite young to me. I don't see why they'd be shopping him at all. But if they are, the Rangers definitely should be one of those teams interested. And obviously, it would cost a lot more than Carson Soucy and Juuso Parssinen there. But just to kind of make the money work, those two players would be going out the door, I'd imagine. There also alongside them would probably be, I'd imagine, definitely one of, I would kind of guess, Berard, Perreault, or Hoffman there. If not, maybe even somehow 2 of them. I don't exactly know, or at least one of them there, and some other picks and prospects as well, right? It would not just be, Juuso Parssinen, Carson Soucy, and like 1 prospect and pick. It would be, those 2 players just to make the money work, plus picks and prospects. It'd be a lot of assets there going out the door. I would imagine they'd want to target one of those 3 prospects like I talked about there, Berard, Hoffman, or Perreault, because they can help them at the NHL level right now. So I think a possible trade kind of could work, I guess. But like I said, to me, why the Kraken would want to do that, I have no idea, because this is a very good player, a second-line caliber centerman, even like a higher echelon one, you could argue, for $5 million per season there, like cap-wise, right? That is incredible. So to me, I don't see why they'd want to ship him out, but if they did, the Rangers should absolutely be one of those teams kind of knocking on the door. And now let's take a look here at a quote from the Heavy.com article where they go on to say, quote, with 2 more years left on his contract, McCann is an attractive add for teams looking to add more scoring punch to their lineup. He has a 10-team no-trade list and has some say in where he winds up. If the Kraken decide to trade him, teams reportedly linked Vancouver, Ottawa, the New York Rangers, Pagnotta wrote. So like I said, I don't think it's necessarily going to happen, but if he does become available, I think this is absolutely a top target for the Rangers. He would not only help this team for this upcoming season, but also in 2026, 27, which, is just an added bonus there. He would cost a lot. It would be, like I said, probably starting off with Juuso Parssinen, Carson Soucy to make the money work, and then you'd be talking about picks and prospects and quite a bit of that, right? It'd be a lot of value there going out for someone like Jared McCann, not the baseball player, James McCann, because obviously he's a guy who, a top 6 caliber center/winger. He is a consistent 60-plus point producer. He's a good 2-way player. So all that kind of together definitely says he is a very valuable player for any NHL team. So if they somehow are looking to trade him, which I can't imagine they would be, I don't know why they would be, if he were somehow to become available, he would be just such an amazing pickup potentially for this Rangers team. But anyways, Thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, as I do post every single day a video at 10 a.m. Eastern Time about the New York Rangers. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on today's video. Do you agree with my kind of thought there on thinking that Jared McCann would be a great pickup if he somehow did become available? Do you want to see the Rangers trade for him? What would you be willing to give up there in a deal for Jared? And also, what are your thoughts on two former Rangers in Jaroslav Halak and Blake Wheeler retiring and officially calling their careers quits? Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.